history is not only written on in textbooks, it is painted on canvases, sung in poetry, and carved in stones. Art and literature don't just record history, they make us feel it. Hello everyone, I am Archana Srivastava, an artist, a gallerist, a historian of sorts, and above all, a seeker on a journey where art is my legacy, art is my passion, art is my voice. I earned my PhD in history before dedicating myself fully to art. Over past 25 years, my journey has been about exploring how art and literature how art can come alive on canvases, how history, culture, and spirituality can come alive on canvases. My canvases have taken me from India's vibrant art traditions to the global platforms. From Jahangir Art Gallery, Mumbai, to Barcelona and New York, where I have tried to share the timeless wisdom of Bhagavad Gita and Vedic scriptures, because I believe that they are deeply relevant in today's times. They help us navigate the challenges of modern life. I founded Late Resorts Art Gallery and Art Sage with a very personal dream. I know as an artist what it takes to put your work out to the world. And with that idea, I wanted to give a very strong platform to the contemporary artists. I also carry a deep love for India's traditional art forms, folk art. So the idea was to build a bridge between old and the new, a bridge between voices of the past and voices which shape our future. Art for me is a subtle form of expression. Art for me is a way to connect with the past while opening our eyes to the future. And today, I invite you to explore with me how art and literature help shape, construct, and feel history. This simple sentence, how art and literature help shape, construct, and feel history, has three powerful nouns. That is art, literature, and history. It has three base form verbs. That is shape, construct, and feel. So now let's have a look at them one by one. First, we take up history. History as a subject of academic curriculum is often taken very lightly. Those who study history are often teased with the line, "Kyun gade murde ukhad rahe ho? Why are you digging up the dead?" We, while studying for history exams, will often say to each other, "History subject bada bewafa, raat bhar rata savere safa." History is such a fickle subject. You memorize it whole night and in the morning it is forgotten. This humor points to the fact that history often is considered to be unimportant, irrelevant, something which is mugged up for the exam and you forget about it because it is rarely applied. But this is far from truth. Our tomorrow can be better if we know what we did wrong today. History gives us perspective. It shows human struggle, their resilience, their success. It helps societies to make informed choices. And obviously, it helps us avoid to repeat the mistakes again and again. If we ask what is history, so there is a simple definition. History is the record of the past which societies have preserved and have agreed upon. In fact, Leopold Ranke puts it very simply. He says history is what actually happened. By what actually happened, he meant an evidence-based, objective study of the past, like mirror reflecting the image as it is. In fact, if you take the Hindi word or Sanskrit word for history, that is itihas. Iti, ha, sa. Three words have come together to make itihas. And that also shows, thus indeed it happened. Iti, thus, ha, indeed, sa, it. Thus indeed it happened. So everything is pointed out to the objective, evidence-based study of the past, which becomes an acceptable record for the societies. So if we talk about how history is written, how it is made, it is brought into the document so that societies agree to accept it as their history. So then we come across a term called historiography. Historiography is science of writing history. So historiography, the historians take into account, they base their study on the sources available to them. The sources can be primary, the sources can be secondary. So the primary sources are direct evidence from the past, like inscriptions, artifacts, architecture, sculpture, letters, diaries. They contain the information of that era. That is the primary source. And historians analyze it, and what they put forth, that is called secondary source. So secondary source is based on the primary source. So if we consider art and literature, they fall in the category of primary sources because they reflect the experiences of that era, the idea of that era. We all know what art and literature are, but still, it is worth pausing a moment and have a look at them. Art is the expression of human ideas, experiences, and imagination through visual and sensory mediums. Art can be a painting, a sculpture, a piece of architecture, diaries, letters, coins, anything can be art. Literature is the written expression of human thought. It involves language, and obviously literature can be articles, literature can be books, literature can be documentaries, literature can be manifestos, speeches, and so on and so forth. So now we come to the first point, how history help us shape, how art and literature help us shape history. This shaping word. So we all know that most of the ideas don't begin in parliament. They begin in poetry, paintings, and all these mediums of art and literature. They spark change before laws do. In fact, Renaissance wasn't a political revolution. It started with Michelangelo's paintings and artworks and Petrarch's writing. They were reimagining the humanity. French Revolution was preceded by Voltaire's satire and Rousseau's radical writings. Indian India's independence movement was also not just sparked off by political rallies. Iqbal's Sare Jahan Se Acha or Bankim Chandra's Vande Mataram, they equally fueled the sentiment in anti-colonial sentiment. Rabindranath Tagore's letter renouncing the knighthood after Jallianwala Bagh massacre, in fact, the way it fueled anti-colonial sentiment is all known to us. So the list is long. So how they help art and literature help shape history, we discussed it just now. In fact, creative expressions change consciousness. And when consciousness changes, when the mind changes, it brings a change. It shapes history. So when the censorship rises, it is not the writing which is feared. It is the imagination. Because imagination has potential to change nations. So now let's move on to the second point. How art and literature help construct history. They preserve old records. And when historians have to take into account the sources, first they go to is art and literature often, because they know they can get many clues there to write history. When it comes to writing the history of nation, civilizations and societies, historians often take into consideration only secular literature, and religious literature is often neglected. But here is a very interesting example how religious literature can throw light on something which is very vital in terms of economic history. There is an Abhang of 10th century belonging to Warkari sect. It says humans are worthless. Humans are like pieces of leather. They are worthless till the seal of Harinam, God's name, is inscribed on them. In a spiritual term, it may have its own interpretations, but in economic terms, it shows that there was a prevalence of leather currency. Otherwise, how would an author imagine inscribing of a seal or mudra on a piece of leather? What we experience, we paint. What we see, we write. So history, for that matter, anchors events in time, and it gives them its context. There was an effort to portray India as land of ignorance, land of snake charmers. But if we see art and literature, we see that how our ancestors were highly advanced. They knew about embryology. They knew Garbhopanishad says that it describes the month-wise development of fetus. Sundar Kamakshi temple in Tamil Nadu, there are sculptures which are interpreted to be showing the development of embryos. So it was much before the microscope and sonography machine came into practice. So this is how we see that art and literature preserve the record, and they help us construct history. Now we move on to the third point. And the third point is how art and literature make us feel history. In fact, it is said if history tells us what happened, art and literature tell us how it felt. It is the cultural memory of the nation or civilization. You can Read a book on war, and you can stand in front of Picasso's Guernica and feel the pain of war, feel how it felt, feel the side effects and miseries of war. There are many examples like that. In fact, you see this Tayyab Mehta's falling figures. You can just stand in front of this picture and feel what was the pain of partition, how it was felt way back then. In fact, art and literature act like time machines. They take us back, and you feel the pain of the era or the happiness of the era. So they really make us feel history. In fact, you can read about oppression in colonial India, but if you read Rabindranath Tagore's Ghare-Baire, you can actually feel the oppression, the urge for reform, the craving for reform. So we know art and literature help shape, construct, and feel history. To conclude, I would like to say that in this hyper digital world where art is mere decoration and literature is treated as entertainment, there is a need to respect art and literature because they are witnesses of truth, records of civilization, and agents of change. If you want to know where you are coming from, if you want to know where you are going, if you want to imagine where you are going, you must read poems, listen to the songs, preserve the canvases, and honor the stories. Because in them, history is not just remembered, history is not just preserved, it is made. Thank you so much.